Hosea chapter 4, we're looking at verse 4. In Hosea chapter 4, we're looking at verse 4. Yet let no man strive, nor reprove another, for thy people are as they that strive with the priest. Thy people are as they that strive against the priest. Like the children of Israel in the wilderness strove against Moses. Thank God for Moses. He had raised up Joshua. What if Moses had not raised up Joshua? And they strove against him. And the Lord took him away. And there was no Joshua, no Caleb, that Moses had prepared. How will they get to the land? Thy people are as they that strive against the priest. Look at the result in verse 6. In verse 6, it says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. They lack knowledge. The passengers fighting with the driver who is taking them to the desired destination. They lack knowledge. The passengers fighting against the pilot who is flying the plane to take us to the desired end. Those passengers fighting against the pilot, they lack knowledge. The people who are fighting against the priest, against the preacher, against the pastor, when he's emphasizing the holiness without which no man shall see the Lord. And he wants them to see the Lord. He's passionate that everyone will get to heaven. And then the people that fight against the preacher, they lack knowledge. In verse 6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children. Those who fight, they hurt themselves. I pray we will not hurt ourselves. Galatians chapter 4, verse 14. Galatians chapter 4, reading from verse 14. And my temptation, here is Paul talking to the believers in the province of Galatia. And my temptation, which was in my flesh, ye despised not, nor rejected, but you received me as an angel of God, even as Christ Jesus. Look at verse 5 and verse 15. In verse 15, where is then the blessedness ye speak of? For I bear you record that if it had been possible, ye would have plucked out your eyes, your own eyes, and you would have given them to me. Paul the apostle said that if it were possible, if you saw that my eyes were having challenge or problem, you would have thought Paul needs a good, bright eyesight. Now we do. We are there and we sit now, we hear the word. And Paul the apostle was losing his sight. And he said, if it were possible, if transplantation, like they transplant good kidneys to the man, to the woman, like they transplant other organs of the body to a person, because all that science and medicine has now increased, but there was no laser treatment or transplantation of heart. And then the thing they put in the heart now, that if the heart is getting weak and the heart will keep on running, all that was not there. That's why he said, if it were possible, you would have taken your eyeballs, donated everything to me, so that I'll have sharp eyesight and I will be preaching the gospel. He said, what is the blessedness he spake of? Look at verse 16. In verse 16, am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? The Galatians were missing the point of fighting. They didn't understand what to fight and who to fight. They were going the other direction. I pray God will give us understanding. Your pastor, your GS, your father in the Lord is not your target to fight with either physical weapon, psychological weapon, attitudinal weapon. No. Your pastor is there as your father and is leading you in the direction of heaven. And the caution is, fight not. We're looking at Jeremiah chapter 18. And I'm reading from verse 18. Jeremiah chapter 18. We're reading from verse 18. Then said they, come, and let us devise devices against Jeremiah. For the law shall not perish from the priests, nor counsel from the wise, no, the word from the prophet come. And let us smite him, let us strike him, let us destroy him with the tongue. They were not going to use any iron weapon. They were going to use the tongue. And let us not give heed to any of his words. Look at verse 19. In verse 19, give heed to me, O Lord, and hearken to the word, to the voice of them that contend with me. Look at verse 20. In verse 20, shall evil be recompensed for good? For they have digged a pit for my soul. Remember that I stood before thee to speak good for them, and to turn away thy wrath from them. These are the people. They now came against the priest, against the shepherd, against the leader Jeremiah. That was a fight they shouldn't be fighting.